boys and girls, we're going to sing a song to start today called Father Abraham before we go to Scrabble Tower in Newton Ards. Yes? Let's sing along. Father Abraham. It's an action song.
Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord right on. Father Abraham,
Give us a
many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord right on. Left on. Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord right on, left on, right foot. Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord right on, left on, right foot, left foot. Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord right on, left on, right foot, left foot, chin up. Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord right on, left on, right foot, chin up, turn around. Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord right on, left on, right foot, left foot, chin up, turn around, sit down.
Whew! That was a really good one. Where are we going to go to today? We're going to go to Newton Ards, even though where Belfast is, not far from Belfast, but 8 miles or so you'll come to Bangor, all around the Strangford Lough, and here you've got Newton Ards not far away. And we're going to find a big tower you might see, and not far from there, a lovely place called Mount Stewart. Here we go! Today we are in Mount Stewart. It's a beautiful big house. It's surrounded by almost 1,000 acres, 950 acres, which is about 300 hectares. Beautiful trees all over. You can climb, you can play hide and seek. And this Mount Stewart building or house was the property of the Stewart family. And today we're going to talk about William Stewart and the big tower in Newton Ards, which we'll come to in a moment. But this is Mount Stewart Gardens. Very popular. It's owned now by the National Trust. And it's great for families, for kids to come and to go for walks, to see trees, all sorts of trees, shapes, sizes, colours. You might think this tree husband is dead, but it's not. It's very much alive. It's the way it's growing just right across the ground, and it's a good tree to climb because you can't really fall off it, and it's just beautiful. As a little boy or little girl, you could spend all day long in Mount Stewart. It's absolutely beautiful because right away you're out in God's creation. You can see the trees, the colour, the shades. It's also a big farm where you can see lots of outbuildings, and there's animals. There's even red squirrels. You can see all of this here, and there's a big lake right in the middle of it. It's between Newton Ards and Grey Abbey on the way to Portavogie. It's a beautiful National Trust property. National Trust owns lots of properties right across the country. In the UK, in Northern Ireland, there's many of them, and it's good to join the National Trust so that you can visit these sites and places, because you're outside in the open air. There's lots of walks, lots of pathways, lots to see and do, and you can run and have freedom. But the big house that we can see here is very old, built in the 18th century, 1700s. It still has the size windows. There's many rooms and bedrooms. It would be the perfect place to play hide and seek. Joanna, my wife, is an artist, and many years ago she had an art exhibition in Mount Stewart, where some of the big rooms, which were once dining rooms, easels were put up and Joanna's paintings were put up around the building, and many people could come and see her artwork, see her paintings here in Mount Stewart. It's also used for concerts, the gardens in the summertime. Orchestras would come and play lovely music, and people could come and bring picnics and sit down in their blankets with their families, and the music will play, and it's just lovely to sit, listen to the music. And the backdrop, of course, is a big house called Mount Stewart. So it's good to know the history of some places, and this Mount Stewart is a Stewart family, and you can read all about this man William Stewart, that we're going to see in a moment, in the big tower. He, of course, fought in wars, in different battles. He was a famous soldier in the Napoleonic Wars. You can see the house is so big and so beautiful. It's recently been refurbished. You can see the chimney pots, how many of the houses, of course, way back then there was no central heating, so in many of the houses there was a fire in every single room. When I grew up in an old farmhouse, I remember there was a fire in every single room in the house. In the winter time, you went to bed and you would light your fire to keep warm. And in my brother's room, all the different rooms had fires, so it took lots of sticks to keep the fires going, and coal. So here there's lots and lots of chimney pots in this big house. And then there's a balcony around it, so whenever you're up on top, it's closed for refurbishing. When you're up at the top and walk around it, you can see views from all over the gardens and all over the estate. Almost 1,000 acres is huge, so you can see trees and animals as far as you can see. And then, of course, there's the Strangford Loch in the backdrop as well. Very beautiful. And you can't help but just on a beautiful day come here and just think about God's handiwork, God's creation, how God made all these things beautiful for us to enjoy. Lots of plants, lots of flowers. It's really well preserved, really well looked after for us to enjoy. So you can see the big house behind me, and you can notice the big pillars at the entrance. It's like a mini castle. It's huge. It's a huge big house. So this is where Charles William Stewart would have lived. So now we're going to go to Newtownards. Outside Newtownards, you see the big Scrabble Tower. It was built in his memorial. So here is Scrabo Tower in Newtownards. I actually thought this was just a brick building, like a big long chimney pot, but it's actually it's a resident building. It used to be a house up until the 1960s. People would have lived in it. And up close you can see that it's made from stone, and this would have been local stone from the quarries round about Newtownards. When you're up at the top, it's very beautiful. You can see Strangford Loch in the distance at the drop, Newtownards. Then the back you've got Belfast, then to the side you've got Cumber. So for miles around as you're driving towards Newtownards, you can see Scrabo Tower. That's a major landmark in Northern Ireland. And I've just said a moment ago, it's a memorial to this man called Charles William Stewart. And it's a tower. At the very top there's a bright red light. That's to let the airplanes know to avoid it. It's a warning from them. And the Bible talks about a hill on a city cannot be hid. So you cannot hide this tower because it's right on the top of a hill, the highest point in Newtownards. The Bible also talks about a tower. I always like to relate our talks to Bible talks, Bible stories. And there's one time in the very beginning of the Bible, the book of Genesis, it talks about the Tower of Babel. What the people wanted to do, they wanted to build a big tower and keep building it, and eventually they thought we're going to build it up, it'll reach heaven, so we can climb up the tower and step into heaven and meet God and walk around heaven and go up and down. But of course that's impossible, because there's only one way to heaven, and that's Jesus, because Jesus said, I am the way to heaven, I am the way to God, I am the way, the truth and the life. There's a bridge between earth and heaven, and that bridge is the Lord Jesus. He's like a ladder, so it's impossible to climb to heaven. So what happened was God confounded or confused their languages, and everyone who was speaking, they could not understand each other what they wanted to keep building the tower, because God confused their languages, and they all started to speak different languages. So they all give up, they all come down from the tower, and they started to spread across the world. And that's so you can trace your different nationalities, your different tribes, your different nations, your different languages, right to the very beginning of the Bible, whenever God confused their languages and they all scattered across the world. So the Bible is a very relevant book, a very important book. And whenever I see something like a tower, the Scrabo Tower, Newtownards, it reminds me of the Tower of Babel. whenever people try to make their own way to God. Even was thousands of years ago, the way to God hasn't changed, and it will never change. The Bible will never go out of date. It's always relevant. It cannot be replaced. So boys and girls, just like it was for Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and people in Bible days, the way to God is exactly the same. And just like they were looking forward to God sending his son, Jesus, into the world to take away the sin of the world, we look back 2,000 years ago whenever Jesus did come into the world to make it possible for us to be with God. So we don't need to build our way to God or don't need to work our way to God. We just need to, by faith, believe that God's Son is the one who went to the cross to pay the penalty for our sin by dying on the cross, to open up the way to God, the way to heaven. So just by believing and asking Jesus to forgive you of your sin, that means we can get to go to heaven. So as you're driving towards Eaton Ards, you will see this big tower. It reminds you it's a monument to a person. That person has come and he's gone, and he's a hero of this area for fighting in the wars, and this monument is built in his name. But even then, I think it's a beautiful building. People used to live in it, they used to eat in it, used to sleep in it, but today, it's no longer a resident which is used, but the monument is still there. All around it, one side there's a golf club, there's a park, there's flowers, there's wildness, it's like a wilderness. Lots of birds would come and rest and build nests in the nature all around it. So again, you can see God's handiwork on right on top of the hill. And that's where the Lord Jesus would often go to pray, up into the mountain where it's quiet and they can look down upon the city or look down upon the town or upon the people. So again, the Bible becomes so real whenever you can trace the handiwork of God and nature all around us. So it's a simple thing. It's a Scrabo Tower. You can see the airport, see Newton Ards, see Cumber, see Belfast, see the Strangford Lough. But here at the tower, it's very, very special because you can walk around it, you can look at it and learn so much about God, even from looking at the Scrabo Tower. That was a really good one. Enjoyed seeing the Scrabo Tower. Did you know you can live in that tower? So interesting. And of course, not far from there, you can see the lovely building of Mount Stewart and the gardens. Let's sing Our God is a Great Big God. Do you know this one?
Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hand. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands. He is higher than a skyscraper, and He's deeper than a submarine.
song, our God is a great big God. That's all for today. Enjoy your day. Bye.